Wrestler. So look at this wrestling kid. Ain't he beautiful? That's a funny thing when you look back at your childhood and like, your body starts decomposing as it does. You start to think that you're more and more attractive. You're like, oh, I had such beautiful hair because your hair's falling out. You're like, I don't know. I like to think that physically I'm gonna try to stay capable as long as I can, but you just think that you're like, children are so insecure, so needlessly it seems. When you're young, you don't realize all your strengths and your talents. So yeah, like this kid never had a girlfriend. Why? Not for lack of choice. I'm sure there was girls who were into me, but I was just oblivious. Um, yeah, I knew some girls who were into me. Also, I didn't like following these narratives. I didn't go to the school dances. I think the last one I went to was like 7th or 8th grade. So I wasn't a joiner. I started ditching school a lot in high school until I didn't even walk with my high school. Didn't graduate. I graduated, but I just stopped going. Emailed my teachers, asked them if I would fail. If I stopped going the last couple months, they said no, but my grades would tank, and so I did that. But that was at the very end. With this picture was taken probably when I was a captain of the high school wrestling team. That was in 12th grade. How did I get to do that? Because that oasis, that little box that we lived in, all the little ghetto kids running around trying to beat each other up, being all crazy. Well, we would like fight, and it wasn't like fighting like hurt you, but until you cry or you stop or you tap. And me and like this bigger kid who became my best friend, he would always wrestle with me, and like I would like wrestle back, and I wouldn't ever win, but I stopped losing. And so I started, if you're prideful, you don't like to lose. And so wrestling bigger kids and just always rolling around, we all considered ourselves decent at scrapping after you do that, and then your crew has we feel pretty confident because we all always after you become friends, you still fight, but now it's no longer like we're trying to intimidate each other. It's more like I had this one friend who he would just come over and knock on my door, and as soon as I opened the door, he'd just attack me, and we'd just start fighting. And so until for the first half an hour of any of our my family knew if he comes over, it's just we're gonna be on the floor knocking over furniture until we exhaust ourselves, and then we're just laying there breathing hard. But it's just and then we watched crazy we'd get tapes on sambo, Russian grappling, and this is all before MMA. We'd look up UFC 1 and 2 and 3 and people punching each other in the nuts, and the Gracie family was our folklore. We would talk about all we knew was we didn't even know the overhead choke names of the guillotine. Yeah, we did. We called it the guillotine. And I didn't watch wrestle WWE, WWF, and then they changed it when I was young. But I didn't watch that. They did, but that stuff didn't work. But we would use so some of that stuff were more actual moves, ankle locks, a lot of arm bars, and that's stuff that when you do it when you're young, the technique gets embedded in you. You don't even know what a sprawl is called, but when someone's trying to grab your legs, you're throwing your hips out. And when you repeatedly are getting choked out by your friends growing up, you just learn how to tuck your chin, and you learn how to counter or at least last a choke. You know when you're in danger, when you're not in danger. You know when someone has an arm bar and when they don't, when you can roll out of it. And so when we're in 9th grade, me and my friend are well, let's join the wrestling team. I think it was 10th grade, because at 9th grade we were at that freshman campus, so we didn't do anything. Oh, you know what? Extracurriculars. I was going to try out for drama, because I was always a ham. 6th grade, I did that speech. And then 7th and 8th grade, it was I knew in my mind, all right, this is the time to do extracurriculars, thinking I have to go to college. My older brother's doing all the ASB, smart stuff. Later on, he goes to NYU, so that's I see the path I'm supposed to go. But luckily, he took it, so it seemed like I didn't have to take it. I was let me try something else. But I did do pentathlon. Pentathlon is academic decathlon, but in 7th and 8th grade. But that was all intellectual curiosity. It's just we're learning more stuff we're not learning in school. I still didn't do the work there because I didn't do the homework, but I read the books. That's when I learned about opera and classical music and some other stuff, because those were the subjects back then. This is 7th and 8th grade. And I won more trophies than anyone else because since you have in pentathlon and academic decathlon, they put you as grade levels A, B, and C. So I could barely get into the C because I was barely almost failing. But I was a smart kid who should have been getting A's and always testing really well. So I was the ringer, and so that's what these teams love. And so they would seek me out. Oh, a smart kid who just gets bad grades. And so I think I won 20 or 30 trophies when I did in 7th and 8th grade. I didn't win much in high school, but I did it a couple years in high school, and I won some decent stuff for my writing and my speech. Did we do a speech? Maybe. I know my essay got okay. Um, but so 7th and 8th grade, I did that. But then we would skip out. Me and Mike would go play basketball half the time, not even go to the studying. But then we would. I tried to do drama, but because I was a ham and I always saw myself performing. But then I didn't really get along with that teacher. And when we did the auditions, me and this kid were trying to get this girl's attention at the audition, and so we staged a fight. Like, they're doing the auditions inside the auditorium, and we're outside in the grassy area. And me and the kid, I mean, we're trying out for a play, so we're like thinking, all right, we're gonna act like we're fighting. So I have the kid in a headlock, and I'm punching him, or maybe it's reverse. And the teacher runs out and breaks us up like we're fighting. We're like, no, we're just joking, but she didn't believe us, and I got kicked out of the drama group. So the girl thought it was hilarious. So I didn't do drama, but now I'm in, and then we go to the 9th grade campus, and now I'm in 10th grade at the high school, and it's like I've missed out on my extracurriculars. Oh, also when I was in 6th grade, I tried to do drums, because I always, like, part of the arts is like, I like drawing, I like the writing. I guess, yeah, so I read a lot, and I just wanted these skill sets, these like human skill sets. It's like reading, writing, music, and so I wanted to pick up an instrument. I always wanted to play the saxophone, but that's expensive. You know, our family wasn't like that. So I did drums, because all you need is a $12 drum pad. So like I did that, but then I kind of like felt poor doing that, so I gave up on that in 6th grade. So by the time I'm in 10th grade, I haven't done drama, haven't done music, haven't done any sports, not gonna do pentathlon, decathlon. I think I did that later on, like one year, 2 years, just because they sought me out. So I had to do a sport, and I love basketball, but I didn't have the confidence for it. I was decent. I think if I put effort into it, I could have probably made the team. But yeah, so but we fought. Me and my friends, we always would scrap. So that was our natural thing. I was like, I'm gonna do wrestling. I want to do something. I had that sense of like youth, like passing. You should do something. I thought about football, but again, I didn't really like get in. That wasn't my sport. But I thought about like, man, I'd probably be good at that. I was good at running, and I was like a tough kid. So, but wrestling is cool because wrestling is different. And also because I like the underdog, and our team never was able to field the full team. So when I went on the team, it's like you have 12, 14 spots. We would always give up the match before we even started, because in wrestling, you have, every competition is one weight class against the other guy in the same weight class. So you have like a 103 pounder versus a 103 pounder. And then like, I think it's like 112 versus 112 on the way up to like heavyweight. And what they do is you get points for your win, and then you add up the points at the end, whatever team has more points. So we'd go in there not able to field half our weight classes. So even if every single person won, we'd still have to forfeit the match. So going into and this is interesting because this becomes a part of your identity. I'm, ethnic, or like a minority in a majority white town where we never really have money, and now I'm on a perpetually losing sports team. So it becomes a part of your identity that you're always like the underdog. And it's interesting. It's like, I know people are like that. They like it's not like you always think you're a loser, but I did definitely always like just be comfortable with being the underdog. Because then also you have the other side. Like, I knew my parents loved me a lot, and I knew that we had like something really solid with our family, even if it was volatile. They made sure I got a car. We didn't have the most money, but they got me a car when I turned 16. I was kind of a brat that way because I didn't get a job and I didn't really work for this stuff. But they made sure I had also because my mom didn't want to drive us to school and stuff, and I could help out with the family. But I mean, like, they got me like glasses, photo ray glasses that would like, you hold them in the sun and they would change colors. We didn't have money for that stuff, but they would. So I knew that like we were underdogs, but we had like some things going for us. So the same thing with the wrestling. Like, we were a special team. We would lose every match. We never won a match, I'm pretty sure, as long as I was in high school. But the ones of us who were there were confident in ourselves. And so like, it's cool because it's like we're not trying to win, but we still have pride. That's what it is. It's that like, we might always lose, but we're not punks. And I became the captain. The first year I did it was when I was a sophomore. And I joined with another friend, one of those friends that we'd always wrestle and do that friend who would come over and we'd just be rolling around, trying out new moves and stuff like that. And so he joined with me, but he didn't have the work ethic or whatever. His knee was bad, so he just, his family had less money than me. So as an adult talking to each other, like, you realize how much harder it was for people. You don't even, like, I didn't do schoolwork because I didn't like it. I didn't go to school trips because a lot of times I didn't have the money. But he didn't have pens and paper. Like the teacher would be like, "Why don't you have any supplies?" And like we would like joke around like he kind of like is stinky or smells because his parents didn't wash his laundry. Like he was like definitely feral. And so like you have to, when you look back at why kids are a certain way, even your friends in your group, especially like groups like mine, which like went from like class president to like that friend, um, there's different, there's different things going on that like you need to understand more about society and culture to see all of the inputs into this. It's like I'm only, I'm still learning, and that's why I like to go on my homeless trips or my like bottom of society trips just to remember how people actually live. Recently I've been, this last real estate run of me being kind of fancy and having money, I've forgotten a little bit of my roots, and so I think this last year has been me remembering the humble origins I came from and remembering like that people are people. I was starting to notice that I was starting to fear poverty and fear poor people, and when I walk down the street or when I would just get a vibe, it's like I wrote something about that. Now's not the time to talk about it, but being able to recognize where danger comes from. If you start to isolate yourself from poverty and from humanity, you start to forget where danger comes from. You start to have these blanket generalizations, which aren't helpful for anyone. That's the beginning of objectification between the classes. A little bit of lukewarm coffee there. So, here's Shaz, back then David. Actually, I had the email. When did I get the email? Mike, in that 6th grade class, gave me an email. Internet first comes out. Mike, that kid who made friends with me by trying to beat me up. Very creative kid, that's why we became friends. He was Dash Rendar, I was Shaz Barbaric. It was a fan fiction for Star Wars. He was early geeking out on that Star Wars internet stuff. He's the one who showed me like all our base arts belong to us type early internet memes, like circa like mid 90s. And so he gave me that Shaz Barbaric. And then once you use your email address, like, so when I was wrestling, I had Shaz Barbaric as my email address, so that was like 92, 94. And yeah, and then that was my first idea of changing my name when I started thinking about identity and culture, society, and who you are, who your parents are, the inputs that go into your personality, and thinking if I really want, which has always been my ambition, to create a unique idea, create something to add to the historic discussion, like the philosophical, economic, sociological, artistic, whatever it is, whatever this human narrative is, has been progressing since our evolution, out of the trees or whatever you believe, but like add my voice to the discussion. I at one point was like, well, I need to, make sure I'm my own creation too. It's a balance, without divorcing myself from my family, which is why I'm here at my folks' house now, just to reconcile some of the stuff we've been going through, to make sure I'm not being too cold and everything, and make sure they know I love them and everything. But I was Shaz Barbaric back then. I was that email. I just hadn't decided to make that literally my name, which I think is hilarious. My friend Mike, when I told him, he said that's the funniest thing he's heard all year. It's like a cartoon character, but like David McNerney, Shaz Barbaric. When I look at an animal and someone tells me that dog has a certain name, I'm like, no, he doesn't. The dogs don't call each other by that name. We call them by that name. So me the same way. I've always tried to like contextualize or draw the bigger picture. So I guess that idea of like, might as well be a Shaz as a David as anything else. What is a name? I'm myself. I am a sum total of my actions and experiences. I'm a blip on the radar, I'm a candle that goes out. So it's like, so who is this kid? This kid is like 16, 17, maybe 18 if that's my senior year. I really like that pose because that's shooting on a single leg. I wasn't the best person shooting. I never really got the mechanisms down of Khabib. If you like MMA, Khabib Nurmagomedov or whatever, does an amazing shot, covers amazing distance, and then also how he uses his neck. But like, I really like that stuff. I like my form in this picture. I look pretty buff, smiling nice. My hair looks nice. You can't really see the acne that I was always tormented with in high school. Yeah, sometimes when you look in the camera and you're just like, this is going to be something I remember. And that's one of those pictures. So much more stuff you could talk about high school. So much more about the experiences. But wrestling was an amazing experience. One last thing I was going to say. 10th grade, I joined. My friend drops out, so now it's just me. We have a team that we field, and we always lose because we don't have enough people. And so because of that, they would always bump me up because there's this guy at 130, 135. I was about 130, 130, just under 135. So I should have wrestled 130 or even less because you're supposed to cut down, cut some water weight, and also we all carry a little bit more fat than you'd be competitively. I was never good at nutrition. That takes a little bit of money and stuff. I shouldn't use the money as an excuse. If you're dedicated, you can do whatever you want. So I just didn't, I didn't take it as seriously. Yeah, nutrition. I look back and I'm like, oh, I didn't even think about getting myself competitive weight-wise. I would wrestle 145. I'd always wrestle 10, 15 pounds heavier than me because we had a decent guy at 130 and 135, and sometimes even 140, or if the other team didn't have a 140. And so my coach was like this guy in his 20s he was one of the best wrestlers our high school ever had. Came back when he was like 23. He was helping us out, and he was also trying to get in shape so he could do some freestyle stuff. So he was a cool dude. He would drive me around. I think he had a Mustang or something, some cool car. Take me home every now and then. So, but I didn't relate to it at all because didn't have girlfriends, wasn't partying, conservative Christian. Until I went to the Army, I really didn't like drink beer or do anything bad. I was a good kid, didn't even curse. Just didn't think I had to grow up too fast. Didn't smoke weed until I was out of the Army or anything. I was just like, kind of protected my the integrity of whatever this personality was developing. I was kind of like, I don't need that experience. I would hang around people who are drinking, hang around people who are cursing. I'm just like, I'm not gonna break that seal yet. So like that guy, I'm sure everyone probably thought I was a little odd, a little bit innocent and sheltered. But but he would make me wrestle those ones higher up, and I wouldn't get pinned. I wouldn't win, but I wouldn't give up because all my friends would wrestle with me, and I wouldn't win often. But we had a lot of pride, and that's why we were friends. We'd make each other work. And so he liked that, and he gave me a varsity letter my sophomore year, and he gave a little speech to the team. I remember we went to a pizza joint, and he was like, David has a lot of heart, and he never gets pinned, and he never quits out there. And I don't think I won one match my sophomore year, but my junior and senior years were better. Junior and senior years I was a captain because just no one else really was around, and I started having more experience than other people, and I was decent. So I started winning more. I won a couple tournaments. I remember I won a medal. Didn't go to state, didn't go to anything major, didn't even qualify. Well, I didn't take it seriously. I think my senior year I started doing I was in speech and debate, so I would do some tournaments and I'd do some wrestling. I wasn't the best captain. Wasn't even really engaged. But the guys remember me a little bit. My mom tells me she ran into a guy from my team a couple years after high school who remembers me, who was wanted her to tell me that he was a captain now, and he really appreciated me. Mexican kid from the wrong side of the tracks who he was a beast. I remember I'd wrestle him, and he was a strong guy. And but wrestling like anything, it's technique, and that's what wrestling teaches you. That's what sports teaches you, is that sports don't have the space for self-deception. You can't brute force your way through it. Maybe sometimes, but a lot of it's just technique. You have to. It's skill, repetition, technique, hard work, endurance, work ethic. Craftiness, all those little things so I like that. I really like the workouts were more important than the actual wrestling. Just us in the mat room, you smell that sweat, mixture of sweat and ammonia from wiping down the mats, and all that hard work you remember putting into it. I would run the guys in our drills, so stand up in front of them, we're all just running in place, jumping jacks, drop down, do push-ups, running in place, sprawl, running in place, sprawl, and you're in front of them and you're doing this, and then you're calling out, all right, sprawl, all right, push-ups, all right, sit-ups, all right, and you do that for 10, 20 minutes at the end of the workout, and that was really cool. So I really like wrestling. I like working out. That's probably the foundation of why I went in the military. I was go to the Army or go to the college or go do something more physical. And probably my favorite thing about the Army was PT. I willingly failed the physical fitness test once to do morning PT with the fatties. That's a whole nother story. This kid is he's having an interesting high school experience.